Hello guys, and we're back again. Just a simple deck discussion for today for the current standard with Duskmourn House of Horrors. We explored the updated version, somewhat updated version of the Bloodletter combo, and that this deck has somewhat got a good upgrade in terms of creatures, or maybe in a creature curve, because of this new card was added to its arsenal, and that card is the Unstoppable Slasher. So this one will just be a 3-drop that goes with a similar effect of one of its combo piece, that whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they will lose half of their life rounded up. And also it becomes very resilient to spot removals, because when it dies, if it had no counters on it, it will return back to the battlefield with the 2 stun counters in its tap. So what would be this deck composition if we explore now that what the build would look like when it comes to sticking with the core combo pieces? So this is my suggested deck list. I've had some reference builds from the previous, and also from the deck list posted, the rankings for MTG Arena. And let's explore this one. Let's view it the stacks first. It's composed of 22 creatures, 6 instants, 2 planeswalkers, 7 sorceries, and 23 lands. So this is just a mono black version, but you'll notice this 4 copies of Doom Lake Verge will just only have to be a small splash for blue in the sideboard option. But for now, we'll just discuss only the main deck. Let's take a look at the lineup for the creatures. Of course, we go with the 2 drops, which is again very important to make sure that you can somewhat protect your combo piece from any shenanigans or removals per se of your opponent. So we have 4 copies of Deep Cavern Bat. So this would really go with checking on your opponent's hand to know what would be their game plans in the succeeding turns, and you also get to exile a relevant card and prevent them from doing some advantage. And that is 4 copies. We also had to consider 2 copies of Servant of the Stinger. So this card would just not only a 2 cost Death Touch, but it has this ability that when it deals combat damage to a player, if you have committed a crime this turn, you may sacrifice it and search the library for a card. So in a way, this is really a tutor effect that sacrifices itself and gets you the best combo piece for your deck. So committing a crime would not really be a problem here, because as you can see, we have a lot of ways to trigger it in the form of spot removals and also hand disruption. And we have Kerbeck again to make sure that those are getting you the good value. So whenever you commit crime, exile up to 1 target black card from your graveyard, and then you may copy it and cast that copy for the cost of 2 life. So not really a problem here, because the card advantage that it provides, it makes sure that having you to commit a crime would really be gaining towards your advantage. And also having a 3/3 body would also get much of the curve of this deck starting from turn 2. And then also in addition are your copies of Preacher of the Schism, which is still a very excellent 3-drop for this kind of build, generating card advantage, and also some armies of 1/1 white vampire tokens with lifelink, depending on how many life totals are adjusted to you and your opponent. And your 4 drops, of course, aside from the Bloodletter combo, which composed again, it's the curve from Unstoppable Slasher into the Vampire. Make sure that life loss would be double that life instead. And 4 copies is also provided in the deck. And the added 4 drop would be for the late game is your Shouldered Apocalypse, which of course punishes opponents whenever they draw a card by having them lose 2 life. And much more, if with the Bloodletter in play, they would lose twice that life instead. So that is your creature lineup. It's less mainly 22 creatures, but we make sure that the other components here are very relevant as well. And speaking of spot removals, we have these variants: copy of Bitter Triumph, 2 copies of Cut Down, and 3 copies of Go for the Throat for allotted and efficient spot removals in the game. And also an added for the Planeswalker effect, which can also trigger crime and spot removal per se is your 2 copies of Billion of the Veil, and sorcery that makes sure that this combo piece will be protected are your discard spells and your tutor spells. So we have 2 copies of Cruel Claws Heist. This has the ability that can give a card, for example, if the gift was promised, then we cast that card as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast it. That would also depend on the non-land card that was exiled from that hand, but given that the 2 mana cost is very efficient for this kind of deck, to check your opponent's hand for any spot removal or any threat that can prevent you from your combo. And of course, the cheapest 1 mana discard is Duress, is still legal in standard format. And the tutor card, I mean this one, the other Demonic Council, which is the new card from Duskmourn. This ability to search for a demon card is basically refers to the Bloodletter of Alcazotz, which is a vampire demon. You can search it for any time that it would not have a way for you to complete your combo. But in the late game, it can also be beneficial if you had Delirium, which you can search the library for any card and put it into your hand. And then also, if you have not drawn, for example, your Unstoppable Slasher, you can have this option here to have just primarily the old school Rush of Dread with the spree of target opponent lose half their life rounded up. That is 5 mana cost, which still satisfies the combo piece of this deck. And last but not the least are your lands. Again, I mentioned the Splash of Blue for sideboard potentials and options. Maybe some counter spells like Negate would also fit well in this deck. And 18 swamps would suffice to make sure that you can still be able to produce black on this non-basic land. And a copy of Mirex, which at any instances, if you would need extra creatures, then you can just generate this army of Praetorian Might creature tokens for added attackers. And that's pretty much it for this. Your creature curve would go with average of 2.62. It's still very a low curve for this kind of combo deck, and we don't really check the mana cost since these are just mainly all monocolors, so costing would not really be a problem here, and production for mana is also not an issue, as long as of course you can just curve out for your 3rd turn, and your 4th turn you have mana to cast the Bloodletter or Unstoppable Slasher into the Bloodletter and just win from there. So I think that's pretty much it, guys. I think they have already seen some of this potential of this kind of deck, which is again now legal to play in the standard format. And if you have any encounters of this build and may have seen its potential or other options were added for this lineup, for the creature lineup, for example, just let me know in the comments below so we can have a good discussion on one as to how this deck would function and other strategies that are open for us to discuss. And that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you for watching this one. Again, Duskmourn standard Bloodletter combo deck for your new, or not really new, archetype to experiment with in the format. Not only in MTG Online, MTG Arena, but also in your local game store on your weekly tournaments. And guys, thank you for watching, and see you guys on the next video.